again after the summer break. As you know, the depth of Bhagavad Gita is such that we can easily spend one discourse on one single verse. And that is not like trying to make it long, adding a bunch of stories. It's only going through meaning and how acharyas have understood these things, how different acharyas have interpreted these things, and what do I think, and how to bring it into practice. So what I want all you friends to keep in mind is what we are doing here by reading, at least we would not even be doing this much. So at least by having some kind of introduction to one chapter in one discourse, I hope you would be energized and inspired to continue your own Swadhyaya. Swadhyayan ma pramaditavyam. You cannot be drunken. You cannot get mad about your self-study. Self-study is not newspaper. Self-study is not Facebook. Self-study is not whatever the random homeworks you have at school or colleges. Self-study is, you can choose the book of your self-study, but the self-study text has to guide you to progress, to evolve, and to be the person that you know you are, but to let that true inner being to come out to its fuller extent. So to actualize your sattva, your true sattvic bhav, your true essence. So Bhagavad Gita is one of the Swadhyaya texts. I'm sure you have been to our Vijnana Bhairava discourse. We just have started a discourse on Vijnana Bhairava. Shortly, maybe next week, we will have the Shiva Sutra session again. So Upanishads, so these are the texts for Swadhyaya because they actually help us know who we are. This is not even about worshipping this god or that god. This is not even about doing this ritual or that ritual, because this is not even about this world. This is about the self. As I keep repeating, there are two things to know in the world or in totality. One is about the world and another is about the self. So we have been lost in between, neither to the extent that we know the world, not to the extent that we know the self. So in between, Trishanku Avastha. So these Swadhyayas, the objective of Swadhyaya is to get closer and closer to yourself. Today I will derive some of the conversations from Sant Gyaneshwar. I'm sure all of you have heard of Sant Gyaneshwar. Particularly the reason I find him inspirational is if you read Gyaneshwara's commentary upon this particular chapter, 13th chapter on Kshetra and Kshetragna, the depth he goes to, the philosophy he introduces, which was not introduced by other acharyas, the originality you can come across in Gyaneshwara's thinking is mind-boggling, is ingenious and amazing. That's all I have to say. So Gyaneshwara was a very original thinker and of course a great siddha. So one of the mistakes we do, generally referring to a general Hindu masses, we pick up a beautiful stone, we turn into God, we worship, and of these modern people, they start analyzing, scrutinizing. So we hear the name of Sant Gyaneshwar and then we immediately start worshiping him, and what we feel is he was just a mortal like you and me. And yes, I'm not challenging his Sant great Siddhahood, but he also gave a philosophy and we should be openly analyzing his thought. Not making less, not making big, but knowing what it is. Because sometimes when we want to make something too big, you know, and then we are not even accepting what that person has to offer. So if I start saying Sant Gyaneshwar also was fluent in Chinese, I'm not really trying to appreciate the contribution of Sant Gyaneshwar. So does that mean if Sant Gyaneshwar did not know Chinese, am I supposed to say, oh, I'm sure he would have known Chinese no matter what? So, I mean, we need to start a very honest, very objective conversation. Otherwise, we will lose this huge asset, like all the gems, the diamond we have, and we have not been able to verify it. So that's one thing. Going back to Kshetra and Kshetragya, I will of course pick up the lines, at least a couple of the verses, but first to begin with, what is the type of wisdom we are talking about here? One is Kshetra. Kshetra is the body. Kshetragya is somebody who knows the body. This whole yoga is the yoga of the body and its knower. You feel you have the body. What Buddha said, Buddha started from negation. Buddha started from the most external part of the body, the physical mass, and then the thoughts and all the emotions, the feelings, whatever the basic things he went through and continued negating, not me, not me, not me. And then he came across ego and negated that. And then ultimately he experienced that emptiness. That is not far from Upanishadic method, because in the Upanishad we do have a procedure of negation, neti, neti. So you do negate, and when you come across ego, you do not say, I have to conserve this ego. No, you negate that ego too. So then what is affirmed here? If everything is negated, what is affirmed here is that negation, for negation to happen, there should be a foundation for something to not be. When you say the room is totally empty, there is nothing there. And you are not saying, okay, there is not even the room, So people sometimes mistake that, oh, he said there is nothing, so it's nothing there. So the idea is not that even the room does not exist. There is nothing in the room. So the Upanishadic thought is, when you negate everything, what bestows the possibility of negation, upon which negation is founded. So that is not like, okay, this is the Atma. Once you put the word, it is already a concept. It's already a construct. Without negating that, we are not going to reach to that foundation. So that ultimate foundation is the true knower, Kshetragya. But why is the body called Kshetra? Kshetra is translated as the field. In Hindi languages, we call it Khet. It's from Sanskrit, the Kshetra. One who protects Khet is called Kshatriya. So, but why is the body called Kshetra? Number one, anything related to Kshetra is Chiyate. This by default, its dharma, its property is to go towards a decay. What does it do in addition to Kshiyate? Trayate cha. It also retains, holds, protects something. It's like a case in which your karma, not the soul, not the Atma. Atma does not need any protection. The journey has been possible through the maintenance of dharma and adharma. So this body retains your dharma and adharma. That is why it is called Kshetra. Whatever dharma you do will be imprinted in the body. Whatever adharma you do will also be imprinted in the body. So when you continue your journey, because we know this is not the first or even the final body. So bodies come and bodies go, dharma and adharma continue. Not that they do not change. It's like a water. Constantly new water keep coming, but in the river there is always some water. So the same, until and unless it goes totally dry. The same way, dharma and adharma are not staying stagnant. They are changing. They are altering. But you always add some new dharma, add another dharma, and then you continue to redefine yourself based on what particular appropriate dharma or adharma you reconstitute. So your ego is a constant refabrication. So when we talk about nityata, we need to think of two types of nityata or eternity. That one is the pravaha nityata, the eternity in the sense of a flow. A flow is constantly there, but that does not mean that nothing is changing. Heraclitus in Greece said, you cannot cross the same river twice. And so did the Buddha and many other wise people said. What does it even mean? Is the water you crossed once is already gone, and you are not, when you say this river, you are talking about water, and you can't cross the same river twice. But still, you can be certain that, okay, there is this Krishna Gandak, there is this Trishuli Gandak, you go to Nepal, you will see those. So the rivers are still there, I mean, hopefully. So these days, you never know. So our ego's continuity is not the continuity of the permanent self. What we think we know about ourselves is not grounded on the real me, real you, or whatever is the foundation upon which this me or you is construed. But this me and you is construed in the process of transformation. It is constantly changing. So whatever you think you are when you are 5 years old, and what you think you are when you are now, and after another 50 years, if we just have another discourse here, so hypothetically, right? So it is not that body is changing and then ego is not, because that is the soul. No, these both things are changing and we are just confused over it. Okay, if the ego is also changing and not so permanent, and there is something beyond the ego that is foundational to our being, let that be the case. But why Kshetra-Kshetragna yoga? Why should we know about Kshetra, the body, that by default is to decay, is by default to be terminated at one point? So this is, read very closely, because all of you have Vedanta discourses in your life. You have all these ideas about what Vedanta means. I am not like for the first time letting you know, by the way, there is this Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes for my undergraduate student, that is the case, but not for you. And this body is not real. There is something, Atma, that is real. Forget about the body, and then you will know the self. That is what I bet all of you have heard about Vedanta. So my request is, don't bother, because you may not want to invest a lot of your energy reading every word, but just focus on 3 words: Kshetra-Kshetragna yoga. The yoga of the body, the union. Yoga is the union of the body and the knower of the body. Why should we even bother about the body if this is so ephemeral, so to be discredited, so to be discarded? This is why I invoked Ganeshwara, because you might think when I start talking like this, what if I'm carrying away from what our Acharya Shankara said? Maybe I am right now, honestly, because I'm more close to Ganeshwara in my personal experience, at least in this regard.
There's a conflict of tradition and personal experience there. The tradition is Shankara.
I have to be true to myself, and I have to be true to Parampara. I love, I honor, I am trained by all the acharyas within Shankara's tradition, but at the same time, I also have some experiences at the same time, other Paramparas too. So it's not about being bogged down to which particular tradition of interpretation anymore. We are in 21st century, and we have to read these texts open-mindedly. So why are we obsessed with downgrading the body? Body is not something to be focused on, because we are constituting a separate zone of spirituality wherein we do not talk about body, because that's all we want to think about in our real life, in our actual life. Therefore, we want to just enter the gates of the temple, and for a minute, even though we are bowing to the body of one or another god, we want to just pretend that our body means nothing. Although we would not get the sense of the sight of the divine, the touch of the divine, the hearing of the music of the mantras of the divine, we just want to pretend for a minute that our body means nothing. Body denying philosophies, body negating philosophies have harmed much more than any other philosophy in the world. This has not led anywhere. You are not this body, you are not that body. That has not helped people really understand. But how does Ganeshwara think of transforming this whole idea? Is by Tatshetram yadrikcha yadvikariyata said. Kshetragyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra-Kshetra. So, what is Krishna says? It's I am this kshetra, and I am also the kshetragya. Let me go back to our old example from the chains, the pravaha nitya, the eternity in the form of the flow. There, the body changes. And you know what? We want to negate our body so that we do not have to face our mortality, so that we can forget that we are here for a short time, so that we will eventually get old and may not be that appealing. In reality, body and the knower of the body do not come as separated. So you go to buy apple, for example, and you say, I don't like the external bark, I don't eat the seeds, just give me the apple only, I want to eat. Nowadays they sell you, all these everything cased. That's not apple, that's a piece of apple fruit. You are a whole being. Your totality lies not in negation of the body, but in actualization, in realization of what the body is about. This having the body is an amazing opportunity. Some philosophers said it's a trap. So be it. If you think it's a trap, it's a trap. And I assure you it's a trap. But why is this an opportunity? Because of the body, the self, that pure being that you are, pure consciousness that you are allowed to blossom and touch your own presence in the form of the world. Feel the fragrance of lotus or the rose. Hear the sounds of the amazing music. Why should you bother? Because every mode of expression of being What I mean is, everything that exists in the world is your expression. You have blossomed in the form of this totality, and once you experience the Kshetra and Kshetragna yoga, it should not limit you in experiencing this being your body and that not being your body. The yoga will expand to the extent that the totality of all the manifest forms will be your body. That is like a divine body. That is like being omnipresent. Your body is what you define your body is. You tell me that you are always conscious of your body from head to toe. I mean, even if you are aware of head to toe, you aren't aware of so many parts inside. Otherwise, why would we ever even need to go to the doctor and see through x-rays and bunch of things? Oh my gosh, this is what is going on in our body. So what I am calling my body, encased by the skin, is not what I am always aware of as my body. My bodily consciousness, the thinking that I do about my body, is not exactly the same as my real physical body. So now we know that what I think my body is and what really is my body are not the same thing. So just like you could be completely unaware of, unconscious of so many processes happening that is within your body, what is the problem? That there are so many other processes happening within your body extended out in the space. Why does the body have to be finite, limited within the epidermis, the skin? Ganeshwara went through this experience. Just try to imagine, even if you can't have this experience of the totality being your body, just try to even imagine one time what would it be like when everything in the world feels like not your, but you. Not like you know the world, but the way you feel, your own presence. You breathe the way the winds blow through this space. You flow like your channels, your veins, the rivers. And you stay all in the form of the rocks and the mountains. You are the totality. Because this is what this chapter is about. The yoga. Imagine the yoga. Why is Bhagavad Gita called yoga? Every chapter has an underlying premise. The Kshetra-Kshetragna yoga, my guru told me, is the most important of the chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Why is this? Because this is where you see a real manual, a real possibility of blossoming, of blooming. यथा निग्रोध बीजस्थ शक्ति रूपो महाद्रुमः तथा हृदय बीजस्थम जगद एतत् चराचरम. So if you ever see these banyan seeds, banyan tree seeds, the fruit outside of this fig will be not too big, but then I'm not talking about the fruit. Just crack the fruit open and then the seeds are like infinitesimal. You can barely feel on your palm when you open the seeds. I'm sure all of you have seen the Bodhi tree, the Buddha tree or Pipala tree. How ginormous it can get. It can be the size of this house from one side to other with all these branches falling down and expanding. That small seed has the power within it to express in the form of that giant tree The same way, the world in its seed form is in the heart of each and every one of you. You can allow it to blossom any time, and you can experience yourself as the totality, and that is the premise of the chapter. Going just checking some of the verses, because idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti avidiyate. This is called, this body, shiryata iti shariram. The kshetra kshiyate iti, shariram shiryate iti. Both have the same meaning. What does that mean? Is that both sharira means that something that decays, kshetra means something that decays. That is why it is the same thing. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So I need to worship this God, that God. What is Krishna saying? I am the knower of the field. So if you think that you have a consciousness of your body, that consciousness itself is what Krishna is in the Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to honestly read Bhagavad Gita, you have to feel the way of being Krishna. That is the yoga, the union, because he's asking you to experience this union of the world and the foundation of the world. Now, by segmenting in verse number 5 and 6, Krishna gives all these Sankhya categories, you could say. To make it simple, let me say there are 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and the sky. And we have 5 sensory faculties like eyes and ears. We have 5 motor organs like hands and feet. So you have these 15 there. You have the mind, mana. You have the intellect, buddhi, and you have the ego, making it 18. And you can go to mahat, the prakriti tattva that originates, that is the causal to this. Now it adds to buddhi, avyakta, unmanifest, and then ichha, your desire, dvesha, envy, sukha, dukkha, both types, pain and pleasure, and sanghata, whatever things come due to union, chetana, consciousness, triti, endurance. Basically, your body, your mind, and all the faculties that constitute body and the mind, that collectively is called kshetra. Samasa means collectively is called kshetra. And now you could have more things, positive things. So like amanito, or not to have ego, ahimsa, non-violence. So these are also considered within the kshetra. So adhyatma jnana nityatvam etats jnanam iti proktam. When you have the positive, I'm going all the way to 11 because it gives you a list of all the things that can be considered the consciousness of, or the knowledge of whatever is within the body. What is the product? What is the outcome when you know your body or your mind? The first outcome is you recognize the futility, for example, of violence, the futility of lying, the futility of ego sense. I am such an amazingly rich man, or a successful man, or a wise man, you know, all these flimsy coats you want to get away, you shed away, like the snakes, you know, they give away their external skin So the same way a wise man sees meaninglessness of these external layers that come about, and then you have to move on. Now, in number 12, I skipped a couple of lists in that because I believe it's easier. Gyayam yat tat pravakshami yat jnatva amritam asnute. I now tell you what you need to know. And by knowing that, you will achieve the nectar of immortality. What is that? Anadimat param brahma no satan no asad uchyate. So there is one absolute foundational being that is neither called being nor non-being. Okay. When you think in terms of there is got to be a room, I gave a concept in previous example. When you say the room is empty, and then I say, but there is a room. Now you got stuck with this concept of a room. Sat, being, something. Shruti is Bhagavati, Gita is directly negating to even put a thumb on being. Na sadasid, na sadasid. The Nasadiya Sukta, this is again Nasata Nasaduchate, coming a continuity of a thought in which your mind is designed in the way of you. Most of you guys are computer engineers, bravo, in 0 and 1, or being and non-being. So either we think of one or we think of the opposite. So not just that, most often our mind shadow immediately constitutes the opposite. When you think of the existence of one thing, you also conceive of its non-being. You buy a car, you immediately think when you will get rid of this car. So this is the constant process of having one thing immediately comes with its absence. You would like to see in your mind, in a counterintuitive logic, of what it would be like when you do not have that counterfactual reasoning. So this is a different type of reasoning. What if this was not the case? When you see this is the case, then immediately the mind gives, what if this is not the case? So how to get outside of what if this is the case and what if this is not the case? How can we trace our mind's origin? So what he is saying is, it is not about tracing the being in the mind or its negation in the mind. It's going outside of those opposite, sanghata, the constitutions. That is always in the form of affirmation or negation. How is that being? How is it that thing something that you are neither calling being nor non-being? Sarvataha panipadam tat sarvatokshi shiromukam sarvata sruti malloke sarvam avritya tishtati. So what he is saying is sarvata panipadam tat. It has its hands and feet everywhere. Sarvata akshishiro mukham. So it has its head and eyes and mouth everywhere. Well, it's like, don't you start imagining, when we think of Krishna's Vishwaroop and thousands of mouths, even I have Kali Vishwaroop with 1,000 mouths, it's a metaphor, honestly. What it is really saying is, its embodiedness is constantly expressed in every single form. So your eyes are not just seeing, they are also listening, they are also touching. That's what it is saying. How can you have everywhere the eyes and the ears? You have your ears here, eyes here. So what does it mean is that every single function possible is happening in every single point in space, because this thing is not bound to space and time. And when it manifests in space and time, it doesn't need to be located in a particular space and time. Therefore, if you go and ask a Siddha, I want to see God, where can I go? He's not going to say, you will see God only if you go to that mountain or that river, you know. Because that is not the God that exists anywhere, that you have to go to a particular temple or a particular mountain or a particular river, particular confluence. Because this is the being that gives the possibility for all those confluences and the rivers and the mountains. Nirgunam guna bhoktricha. This is now going to further down in nasat, and then the same way nirgunam guna bhoktricha. What you will see is there are a bunch of paradoxes given there. The end of the paradox is going again with the foundational motionless being, or the dynamism that defines being. I will make it less technical. What I mean is everything is moving. If you ask a physicist, you will say, I do not know a word, anything in the world that is not in commotion. Everything is pulsating, everything is vibrating. If you ask a yogi, he would say, I do not see anybody's mind that is not moving, because everybody's mind is running from here to there. If you ask a biologist, he will say, I do not see any body that does not have its growth happening. Every cell is constantly reconstituting itself, regenerating and dying, decaying, and then, you know, they are also cannibals. They are also eating each other's processing. In this ginormous trillion cell body, amazing things of life processes simultaneously happening. Millions of life forms simultaneously coming into being and going out to death. Mind is constantly moving, body is constantly moving. Where is it moving? What is the energy? What is the foundation for all the commotion? Is that foundation where the motion is located, is that also moving? So why did Shankaracharya think that ultimately there is got to be something beyond motion? Because he saw the reason that everything could not just be moving, because a moving motion requires some kind of space wherein the motion occurs. And there should be a foundation for that motion to occur, like an empty space. If time is moving, there has to be some kind of a foundation for the time to move. What is the foundation upon which time is located? If every motion, every commotion is located in time, where is time located? Yajnavalkya and Janaka had an extensive dialogue upon this location. The Gargi actually, so had an extensive ayatan. So a conversation in the Brihat Aranyaka, the great forest Upanishad. One day I'll also discuss on that, if you do not fall asleep. That's the promise. So this is the reason why there is a paradox. But what is it then? Is what is real, what is true, or what do I think must be the case? I do not see a paradox of that singular essence constituting itself in motion, expressing its, I consider it svabhava, innermost, intrinsic, inherent nature, to be able to blossom, to express, to expand, to swell, and to be everything. When the singular being swells, blossoms, it becomes everything. And why do you say this is such a bad thing? So being everything has given us this space to dialogue. Being everything has given us the possibility of life. That singular being is expressed in such extent that we can feel pain. Forget about feeling pleasure. Yeah, everybody likes to feel pleasure. But there is, feeling pain is bad. Everybody wants to avoid to feel pain. But we do feel pain. Sometimes we like to feel gloomy. Sometimes we also like to shed a couple drops of tears. And it is okay. All the philosophers have focused on negating pain. I'm here telling you that pain is okay. Pain is part of a package. Just like old age is a part of a package. And we went in this mission of negating everything that is associated with pain. It's like you starving to death thinking I have to pay if I go buy some food. You know, because why would I want to spend any money? It is just, if I just die, I don't have to spend any money. That's no logic there. So the same way, being in the world comes with some pain, but being in the world is meritorious. It has its own merit. What is the merit? You have this amazing opportunity to Kshetra-Kshetragna yoga. If you did not have the body, when you were totally disembodied in the nirguna form, you could not have felt your presence in the world. You could not have felt the entire cosmos as your breathing, your expression, your extension of your being. So this is what is the beauty there. The world is what a horrible place to be. The body, what a nightmare to be trapped in. This is a very negative attitude towards life. Life is suffering, life is a struggle, but that doesn't mean that killing is the final remedy. You know, the people in existentialism, quite contradictory actually. The philosophers, great philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre, who envisioned this 20th century Western philosophy of existentialism, thought of this extreme of finding meaning of our existence. Ultimately, they saw that it is fulfilled in suicide. Read Camus. I'm not making it up. Read Camus. What is the point of understanding existence if you find that it is fulfilled in killing yourself? Why I brought even this issue is a father of a very close friend of mine in Santa Monica killed himself a little bit less than a month ago. And we had a series of existential conversations. And a form of nihilism is haunting our being since we became conscious. We need a deeper programming of our mind beyond this nihilism of our being. This is the chapter for you to restart programming the way you think about your being in the world. Being in the world is the only occasion that has allowed you the possibility not to experience your being. You would have experienced your pure being with or without the body. But without the body, you would not have felt your presence in the world. To pick up a rose, to smell the fragrance of a rose, you need your nostrils properly functioning. That is your extension of being. That's your own being continued out and about. Avivaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva cha sthitam. So this is like, I'm going to 16, only to point out how many paradoxical things he's giving. Avivakta, undivided, but as if divided. That's just add one more thing of the polarity. Grosishnu, Prabhavishnu, in the same verse. I should not escape that because it is the destroyer and it is the creator. It gives the possibility of being and it reabsorbs the possibility of being. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Uvavapi, verse 19. Vikarasya Gunasya Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. What is happening is, I will finish it shortly. Not too long, I know. I promise you. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Uvavapi. You are Purusha, okay? The term in translated as male and all that, that is gross, okay? So what is the meaning is Pur means the body and Ush means who dwells there. Ush, from Ush we get Vasati, Baithta hai, Bascha. Pur means Lalit Pur. The body is the Pura. That which dwells in the body is called Purusha. That is your soul. That is why it is called Purusha. It has what? So you need to know Prakriti in a slightly different way, the way I have understood following Ganeshwara. It has its intrinsic, inherent qualities, intrinsic tendencies. Let the bug fly. Yeah. Don't kill it. What is Prakriti? Maranam Prakriti Sharirinam, Kalidasa writes. The Prakriti of the body is to die. So Prakriti means nature, Swabhava. You have yourself and you have its tendencies. What is the tendency of your being? To express yourself, to be happy, to be sad, to be embodied, to see, to touch, to experience. But what is missing is the awareness that this all thing is happening at the foundation of something that is not changing. Everything, including the ego, is changing, but this all drama is happening in the theater that is itself not dancing. You know, you want to go see a dance, and as long as the dancers are the only ones moving, that is one thing. If, God forbid, earthquake comes and the whole theater starts moving, and that's a different type of dance altogether, right? So even for the theater to move, there is this space upon which that motion on earth is possible. So for any motion, we are presuming a foundation. So I am not denying the real logic on which Shankara is grounding his argument. We have misunderstood and misinterpreted.
It's like the screen on which the movie is projected. The screen itself is moving.
There is no picture coming.
It's a beautiful logic.
I will not honestly continue more. I know there's so much there. I wish I could share a lot with you. But just like you, I also I will go to 21. Purushaha prakritistohi bhungte prakritijan gunam karanam gunasangvasya sad asad yoni janmasu. Why are we being reborn again and again in all different forms? Whatever your inherent tendencies that are constituted by dharma and adharma, that will reflect into reconfiguring an appropriate body. We are constantly remodifying our body. That is what the process of evolution is. So because all our desires are not the desires to go back to the Stone Age. We have so many fantasies. We never even heard of some of these robotics, artificial intelligence and bunch of things. Then we want to feel what would it be like the world. All human beings are constantly projecting themselves being in the future. The world that is not yet unfolded. We are already projecting ourselves to be in those hypothetical scenarios. We are already starting to modify our body accordingly. And I know biologically, we all have reconfigured our body as our anxieties to address, as our desires to address. We evolved from aquatic beings to this human being, allowed all the changes to happen in the body, because we wanted to change. We were not happy with the situation that was given there. If there is nothing constantly going in the generic form, in the collective sense, who is it that is desiring? Great grandpa, when he was an ape, desired that I'm done with this tree branch, too many snakes in the cave, I would rather just live differently. And I am living the fantasy life of a great grandpa. So, therefore, the genes in me are shared. So, that grandpa is still living, surviving, sustaining in my body. We have to think it broadly, and we have to think it in modern terminology. So, एवं व्यक्ति पुरुषम प्रकृतिम च गुणैशः सर्वथा वर्तमानोपि न स भूयो अभिजायते. Moksha. So the text is not saying only realize yourself. You don't need to be tied to your body and the world. Vyeti purusham prakritim cha. You one who knows the self and also prakriti, the tendencies, which includes the body, which includes samskara, the predispositions, the habit patterns, the instincts, everything comes under prakriti. We fail to recognize the expression, the blossoming, the programming that has made this pure being to unfold in the form of the world. Our desire to go back to the original source is never going to be actualized. That's a mistaken philosophy. I am very sorry to tell you this. This world does not matter to me, Gurudev. Okay. You are never going to understand who you are, because the world it's your own extension. It's like, I love my family, I just don't want to stand in front of my wife type of joke, So, I mean, who the family are you talking about? So, if you love yourself, the world is a package of your being. समम सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तं परमेश्वरं विनश्यत्सु अविनश्यन्तं य पश्यति स पश्यति. 27. Samabhav, equanimity. How that same divine permeates, that is most extremely difficult to exercise these days. Because as soon as I'm alone, I remember all the things that happen in my life that have threatened my either physical being or my ego's continuity, or my collective being as a cultural self, as a societal being, or my family. I go out and start talking to people. I immediately encounter the hatred they have, that is projected either towards me because I'm either brown or whatever I am, you know, a particular individual that some people do not like to see, encounter, or particular beliefs I have, or particular thoughts I have, particular language I'm used to speak in. We retain all the hatred from the world and we become an easy victim. The easiest reaction to live everyday life is to learn to be like others. You know, if you go to the Himalayas, climb up above 15,000 feet, there are not that many plants, but all the plants will start smelling fragrant. You smash it a bit, there are some absolutely fragrant plants. Even other plants in company of those real fragrant plants, they behave as if fragrant. And you know, when you get to the real herbal plant, absolutely medicinal plants, the plants that are growing around that plant, which are not by default medicinal, also steal some of the properties of that medicinal plant. We steal some of the venoms of the snake that we sleep with. And we become bitter in our life. We do not question where this bitterness enter in my life, where this venom crept in the chest of my being. And we relish hating. And we forget that our job was to understand Kshetra-Kshetragna yoga, and one condition Krishna put is samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtanta. He is teaching Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield that you have to learn to see your friends and your enemy as equal. And we sometimes believe ourselves beyond Arjuna, you know. We impose ourselves to be a great warrior of Dharma. Which is a joke, by the way. and live with venom. So this is why it is extremely important. Kshetra-Kshetragna antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye vidur yanti te param. So the ultimate goal is how we recognize, how we understand the antara of what constitutes the body and what constitutes the pure Atman, the knower of this being. And this knowledge of the body extended in the totality, and that who knows this extension as the very divine essence Krishna. That is bhakti. If you could do a bhakti to Lord Krishna by beating couple drums and doing couple leg breaks, that would be awesome. What Krishna is demanding from us is little more tedious than that. To recognize that consciousness in you as Lord Krishna. I am the Kshetragna, he says, and what is the knower of the body? That is you, right? So the knower of the body in you, whatever you think that is you, is Krishna. And be that, abide by that. And that is self-realization, and that is bhakti. There is no distinction between jnana and bhakti. So this is where I should stop. But of course,
just go to 27. Samam pashyami sarvatra sammasitham ishwaram. That shloka we didn't touch on that.
Okay.
There is a quintessence of this.
Yeah.
Of this chapter. 27. Yeah. You touched on 26.
Samam pasyanhi sarvatra, 28. Samam pasyanhi sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram. Na hinasti atmana atmanam tato yati parangati. No hinasti atmana atmanam. When you have the surge of violence, you know, why you go out in the world, all you hear is really disturbing things. I read newspaper too, you know, which is a bad habit, but I'm living in the world and I have to I feel like I should know. And they are all disturbing. Sometimes I end up in debates that's even more disturbing.
I also watch news. He won't let me watch.
Good. Tipubai is a good person. So, no hinasti atmana atmanam. What comes immediately is slowly, if you have any decency left in you, if you have any right-mindedness in you, your blood starts slowly boiling, seeing injustice happening in the world. And you feel like you want to get back to Kurukshetra one more time and make it just. That is what was happening with Arjuna. For the amount of injustice that he and his family endured, every single cell in the body, all these scientists would know more, in 12 years, no, not a single cell in your body remains unchanged. Everything within that time is changed. Every cell in your body is reconstituted with a desire for vengeance, to get even. All these, there is no equanimity. That is why Arjuna had to be weak. That is why his Gandiva had to fall from his hand. Because he did not have the sight of equanimity. He is guided by violence in the beginning. I want to kill these guys who tried to rape my wife. You are angered. You are not above all these emotions and saying, I will do whatever is anticipated of me, but I am nobody's enemy and I have no desire to kill anybody and I'm not acting out a reaction. Therefore, when I see some people babbling reactions, I do not expect any good thing coming out of those people. They're oozing out venom, that's all. People who do good, act. Don't speak a bunch of stupid things. Action is not reaction. How can you? Because the desire to kill comes from seeing another. There is no seeing equanimity. Nahinasti atmana atmana. I mean, until and unless you are one of those contemporary existential philosophers, you don't want to kill yourself. But what would happen if you see the entire world as a continuity of your being? You would not want to kill yourself. You would want to explore a possibility of, or at least you would station your heart in the absolute peace and non-violence, even when you are carrying a sword. And you would be like the enlightened Arjuna. You would not be the child Arjuna who is just acting vengeance. So whatever you do would be much evolved form because you would have recognized your destiny. And you would have acknowledged oneness. Sometimes, you know, I don't have any doctor here, but you know, you may have gone to I went to the dentist and some years ago, and I asked with all my conscious mind to pull out my wisdom tooth. It's not fun. Pulling out is painful. First of all, that is my tooth. And I'm not even going to get another one. So there is a big difference in the way to think when you uphold dharma, and there is a big difference in when you act vengeance. And do not confuse each other. Om Bhadram Karnevihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshavirjatraha Sthirairangaistustuvagum Sastanu Viprasemahi Devahitan Jadayo. Om Swastina Indro Vriddasravaha Swastina Puga Vishwavedaha Swastina Starsho Arishtanemi Swastino Brihaspati Dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I know you kids got a little carried away today. Maybe I kind of goofed up. Let me close this. I'm gonna